Hello again, YouTube. Say hello to YouTube, Twitch. We're back with another Tim Cain reaction. This time, the importance of conversation. And we're definitely going to have a conversation. Well, it's going to be a little bit one-sided, to be fair, because Tim won't be able to respond. But I think it'll be a good conversation nonetheless. What do you have to say, Tim?
Hi, everyone. It's me, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Today, I want to talk about the importance of conversation.
Okay, but hold on, because you are really quiet. We're going to boost you up a bit.
I know to some people, I might go, my secret weapon? It's talking. Maybe that's not so secret since all I do on this channel is talk and talk and talk. And a lot of people I've worked with say, wow, you talk a lot. And also,
Never been
sometimes
said to
I
me
worry
before.
that I babble like a babbling idiot. But recently I said that to a friend of mine and he said, no, you're more like a babbling brook. It's very comforting. And I went, thanks. Wait a minute. Anyway, I do have a video where I talk about introversion and extroversion and how I actually took a test on it twice and scored like a 0. Second time, I think I scored a 1.
Well, like fully introverted or extroverted?
What that means is I'm not an introvert or an extrovert.
Oh, he's ambivert.
I know I seem like an extrovert because you see me on this channel talking. And I know a lot of people who worked with me thought I was an extrovert because they saw me in meetings talking.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think there's a common misconception that introversion means that you can't socialize or can't talk or that you're bad at it. It's absolutely not the case at all. You could be one of the most well-spoken introverts in the world. You can be really good at capturing people, at speaking to them, maintaining eye contact, storytelling within the conversation, and still be a massive introvert. I am massively introverted. My energy gets drained by being social very fast. I need to sit at home and just veg out and rot for a bit, playing a game or something, and just not talk. I'm a very big introvert. I've been in front of a camera for a long time, and my job is game design, so it's a very communications heavy job. You're not an energetic. No, if I talk to somebody for too long, I literally shut down. I shut down. Streaming's a little bit different though, because streaming I can yap, and it's not as socially draining as being in person with somebody.
They came by my desk and wanted to talk to me. So I can do that. I can, and I do, and I like spending time talking. But guess what? I spend most of my day not talking and not interacting with people in any way. Because if I'm doing design work or coding, that's very solo. That's very by yourself. I've described it to people who don't understand, who think I'm very extroverted, that I have like an extrovert battery. So when it runs out, I'm done. Timmy talk time is over.
Yep.
I do not want to interact anymore. At work, this is easy. I can go back to my office and work. It's weird if I'm at a conference because I may do a talk and then there's Q&A afterwards and then my talk time battery runs out and I just want to leave.
God, conferences are the worst. Conferences are the worst as an introvert because it's just, you wake up at I don't know, 6 a.m. or something. Sorry, Tim, I can't get you on a good image. There we go. You're inquisitive now. Yeah, it's like you have to wake up at 6 a.m. and a lot of these conferences open up at 8 or something, and you're just chatting from 8 until 8 non-stop. You might have a little bit of a break here and there and have somebody step in, or have lunch and somebody steps in for you, and then vice versa. But it's just one person after the other, and you are just saying the same things over and over and over and over again. Hey, tell me about your game. Tell me about your game. What is your game? And you have to act like that conversation every single time is the first time that you're having it that day. Because if you don't match the energy or the cadence and the tone when somebody new who has never talked to you before is coming to ask about your game, they kind of just may seem like you're bored or you're lacking energy. So I really enjoy conferences. I love B2C, business to customer stuff. but it's draining. It is very draining.
Go to. Usually, if my hotel's nearby, I'll just go back there for a couple hours. Otherwise, if there's like a speaker room or whatever, I just go in there just to have quiet time for a while,
Mm-hmm.
which I can do and I need to. And I think other people need that too. But what this video is about is I cannot stress how important talking to your fellow coworkers can be. I think it fulfills a lot of things that are very underestimated how important they are to have a good project. Talking with other people makes you understand the issues in the game. Somebody may not understand part of a design, another designer or a programmer or an artist, and they ask you questions about it, which make you realize, maybe I should explain that better, or maybe I should tweak the design, because if you're not getting it, the players may not get it either.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
But it
And
also,
and I think the move to remote work and digital communication platforms, I think, has worsened that quite a bit. There are a lot of people that they don't know if you're busy or not, and they might choose to not send you a message because they don't want to disturb you in a way that I think is destructive to those conversations. And there was a lot lost for game designers, in my opinion, especially game designers, in the switch from office work to remote work that is very hard to replace or to account for an awful lot. And it goes beyond just like the social aspects too, because of course being able to see people, see their tone of language, their body language, if I'm explaining something with my hands, you can't see that unless we do a video call. It's not important to talk with people, it's more important to command them. You sound like some of my former bosses, I'll tell you that. There's a reason they're former.
often helps them understand each other. I find that when I see two coworkers trying to work out a problem, it's more than just working out the problem. They're kind of, you know, understanding each other and what their
Yes.
perspectives are. I've seen programmers understand artists more just by having them talk through some of the issues they're having trying to get something working in the game. That may result in a way better tool being created by the programmer for the artist when they learn where the friction points are, where we're losing a lot of time, which they
Well,
would.
well, you also, even beyond that, you just get a lot of emergent discussion happening. If you're in like a room with four people and two of those people are having a discussion on the whiteboard, you might overhear it. You might be on your break and you can just listen in. And those emergent discussions are very difficult to have on digital platforms, especially if you have like harsh enforcement of like private channels or threads. A lot of those things can get lost. I know that there are a couple of studios that have talked about their switch to remote work, and both of them said the same thing, is that they kept everything public because it offered the opportunity for that emergent discussion and contribution that existed in the workplace but didn't exist on digital platforms. If you start to have threads and discussions going too deep, or in like private threads for especially. And I think that that was a really good thing to mention there for it. So yeah, I mean, there's so much discussion that's needed with design. It's one of the reasons why I also don't like working solo, is because I like to get that feedback. I like to talk something through. I wouldn't think about, or I may not have thought about as early as now, picking up and grabbing items in our immersive sim and rotating them, or being able to rotate them, if I didn't do this stream and Hey Vintage said, hey, you could do this instead. And it's just, I think that there's a lot of benefit to not working in a vacuum like that. That unfortunately, I do see a lot of people working in that vacuum. And as introverted as you are, you do need to kind of push out of that bubble. I think you can learn to communicate better even if you are an introvert. You absolutely can learn communication skills no matter how introverted you are. And it's very much worthwhile to do so.
Have gotten if they just given a tool and yep, the output's coming out. But when they actually sit with an artist and watch them use the tool and discover that there's a lot of things that are slower than they need to be, or even, and this has happened a few times, you see something that could be automated. You see the artist doing
Yeah, make a
something
tool.
repetitively,
Yeah.
and you're like, I could automate that for you. That's happened. And then
I
more
mean,
than
I think also you also just gain a respect and understanding for the work. Like you realize, oh shit, this person is way more skilled at this program than I thought, or I thought it would be easy to make this kind of mesh, but it appears that it isn't. And you just that understanding can turn into respect and better time estimations as well. There's a lot you can learn by watching somebody else do their job efficiently. AI exists, companies say I can automate everyone. Not that kind of automation.
just both of those things, you get a bond. You get this social bond
Mm-hmm.
that helps avoid misunderstandings in the future. When you know
1000%.
someone, when you get an email from them, you kind of hear the email in their voice and you kind of understand where they're coming from. Where I've seen on too many occasions, people misunderstand an email or a text message, or Slack. They don't understand it. And they immediately jump to the most negative interpretation and start basically flaming the other person. And it's weird to watch happen. And I usually see it happen between people who have no other bond. They don't know each other. So it's easier for them to go at it. And if they just know each other a little bit, it works out way better. The project goes more smoothly, they interact better. And this conversation can take a lot more forms than forcing people to talk. I've seen a lot of people just chat at their desk. Somebody will walk by and go, "Hey, oh, you're in. Can I ask
The
you a question
emergence.
about
Yep.
this tool or this feature or this animation you just put in or this dialogue I just went through? I didn't understand what was going on."
I mean, even beyond that too, you could just be like, "Hey, how's it going today? How's it going today?" And you can kind of just sense that the person might be having a tough day or whatever their job is a bit tough, or it enables the dialogue to happen. I have been at my desk racking my brain trying to think of how to design something, and just going up, having somebody come up to me, or just going out to lunch with somebody and saying like, guys, what would you do here? What are some ideas? Throw it back and forth between people, and there was never a case where it didn't end up with even minimum a deeper understanding of the problem that I had. Because being able to ask a programmer or an artist their perspective of this, or maybe they like different games than me and they can say, oh, well, in this game, there was something similar and it solved it. And then, it blossoms from there. But if you don't have those conversation enablers, which remote development and digital communication really is bad at enabling conversation like that, it's not going to happen. And people are just usually not good at forcing it. One thing you learn about being solo dev is I have to interact with everything, so I end up making tools for things that are annoying to use. Well, solo dev does have its problems of its own too, especially with like feedback and tunnel vision would be two big problems,
And from that,
or lack of
they
feedback and tunnel
discovered that
vision.
and probably avoided a bug that later would have been in QA, where
Yep.
people said that no one's finishing this quest or no one's figuring out what to do. Or I've seen so many solutions happen because two people chatted at a desk for 5 minutes.
Well, one of the things that I do too when I'm like designing a feature for a game in like a professional environment is I will write up my high level notes, and this will literally just be notes like new feature, new great feature, because of course it's gonna be a great feature, right? And it'll be like, okay, I want to do X, so the player has Y and Z, can do X by maybe A or B. A provides faster implementation, in my opinion, but B is better result. And I'll just keep going down and down and writing this. And then what I'll do is I'll have a call with the other leads, programming and art, or if art isn't needed, maybe just programming. And I'll say, okay, here's the notes. I'll read through them. stop me when you have a question or you have an issue or you have a better idea, and then we'll make notes of this conversation. I'll go back to it. I'll write up the changes, show you the notes again. They look good. Okay. Then I can start filling out the low level design because I may be able to, like Tim says, avoid tons of bugs or issues or much longer implementation time, or avoid some necessary refactor to a system by talking with somebody who understands that, the game from their point of view. Make the feature great again.
And of course, there's meetings, which I
Sometimes
know
that
a
needs
lot
to
of people are
happen.
like, meetings are terrible. There are
Redesign.
too many meetings. True, but just don't go overboard. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Some meetings are important. Some
Yeah.
meetings don't seem important. It's like, I don't know why this information couldn't have been in an email. And it's because sometimes it's better just once a week to force people together for 10 or 15 minutes. And that's why I agree, an hour-long meeting is maybe too much. But just making these people be in the same room 10 minutes a week is a good thing.
I think that a lot of like team leaders and company owners in game dev need to understand that they need to look after the mental health of their developers too. And one way to do that is to have some social bonding time, especially if you're a remote only team. You still need to find ways to get people to meet up in person. You need to find ways to have them bond through like either like mandatory playing our game time while we sit in like a voice chat, something, just anything to make sure that people, because when you like Tim says, and it's really important for design, and it's why design is such a challenging job, is you have to understand everybody's communication style as a designer. You need to talk to them to understand their communication style, and then you need to figure out the way to talk to them that works with their communication style. And if that discussion isn't happening, those sorts of meetings aren't happening, then you're just kind of gimped as a designer. And ultimately the team is going to suffer for it. Everybody's going to feel like there's no connection or cohesion between the team, and it's more just like a bunch of solo devs working at home in their rooms. And I mean, even beyond that, thinking about rooms, some people, when they are remote working, are in their houses. And some people have the benefit, like me, of having a separate office that I have to walk to that is a different building. So I get some outside time. I have the benefit of that. Some people do not. And they might feel like they're a bit trapped in their house day after day after day. Do something. Find some way to build up those bonds so that you don't run into an issue where your team just feels trapped. Yeah, touch grass. Physical bonding like Ryek. No, mental bonding like Blizzard. Oh wait.
Can happen at lunch. I'm guilty of not doing that very much because often I had an animal that I had to go home and feed or let out or socialize or whatever during lunch. But
Lunches are
sitting
great.
down with people over lunch where you're
Mm-hmm.
not talking about work, that's where the bonding happens, which helps later when you have to do work. You know this person, you have things in common with this person. Things go better because of that. And this can happen from after work stuff. I used to do this all the time at Interplay where
Go
we
for a
play
beer.
tabletop role playing games and computer games and watch movies. Some places like Obsidian have clubs. They have a softball team that people get together on. And what's great is it kind of mixes up the different departments. So people you may not ever have talked to, hey, you played softball with them. And guess what? They're a pretty good hitter. For me, this came up in a lot of different ways. I had the dog at Troika with me, and we would go on a dog walk every day. And often a lot of people came on that because some people in the office next door thought my dog had a poop posse. And Cooter was a weird dog. He actually liked it. He was those dogs that when he'd poop, he'd look at you. He'd be like, look at me, I'm pooping. I don't know why
I
he
do that
did
with
that.
my
I thought it
wife.
was weird, but he loved to do that. And he'd pick different people in the poop posse to stare at while he went.
I think too that strike teams kind of have that same result too, where you don't want to have such a segregated team that, and like hierarchical team, that you don't allow for individual feature ownership in strike teams, because strike teams are a great way to mix people up in the company that don't have much of a reason to talk with each other. And that's always great for just, learning and bonding more with other team members, and figuring out communication styles and development styles. There's, there's no right or wrong way to run a company, but I do think that there are really good practices that can encourage these sorts of bonds to be created and maintained over time, and to ensure that there's strong cohesion between the team members. Look at you, because they're vulnerable and rely on you to protect them. You feel vulnerable when you're pooping in chat.
Some people, though, chose those dog walks. If they saw me leaving by myself, they saw that as I can get Tim by himself for 20 minutes. Maybe they wanted to talk about a programming problem or a design issue. One time, someone had a work personnel issue, but he didn't want to go into my office and shut the door and have everyone go, oh no, so-and-so's in there, and he shut the door to Tim's office. It must be something big. He just went along on a dog walk when he saw I was leaving by myself. We hashed it out. We worked it out. And no one had to know he brought a problem like that to me in the first place.
Yeah.
And that worked out really
That's
well.
smart.
Same thing happened at Obsidian with the chocolate eating meetings. They happened every day at 3. Some people would come to my office for 10 minutes and we'd eat some chocolate. I got to eat more chocolate than my doctor wanted me to because I didn't eat the whole bar. But what was great about the meetings is there were artists and designers and programmers, and they would just come, and not everybody would come on the same day, but they would talk to each other and they'd meet each other. At Interplay, we had racquetball. Everybody who played racquetball came from different departments. I actually, the best racquetball player was from the accounting department, somebody I probably would never have interacted with.
Yep.
He and I played racquetball every week. It was awesome. I talk about it in my Staying Healthy video. And I know the cool thing now is people like to minimize this. They're like, this isn't important. This is stupid. It's a waste of time. And they usually do it to promote remote work. And I have a whole video.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. I 100% agree. I have seen that. I have seen that from a lot of developer friends that are like, I love remote work. These sorts of meetings and discussions aren't important. And I'm sorry, but they are important. They're very, very important. I appreciate that I don't need to travel an hour to get to some office. Really, I do. However, it's very different. It's so much more enjoyable even to go to like some of my old office places and see friends and colleagues, former colleagues, than any day sitting at home and doing development. Any day.
About remote work, and I think remote work is great and everything, but people minimize conversation with coworkers so much. And I think they do it to promote remote work. And like everything in life, I think if someone is 100% against something or 100% for something, they're usually trying to sell you something, or they usually have something they want to get out of it. And I think the people who minimize interacting with coworkers are trying to promote remote work, and they're doing it a bit disingenuously, because I think it's bad for you not to interact with people and your coworkers.
It's statistically, verifiably, provably accurate that not interacting with people enough damages your mental health. It affects your stress. It affects your creativity. It affects your physical health. All true. And there's also provable, verifiable, statistical facts that digital interaction with people does not have the same effect chemically that physical interaction with people does.
Many people think it's good for them not to interact, and I do not think that's true. I think everybody needs that interaction to varying degrees. Some people just want a little, some people want a lot more. Nobody wants it all the time, and nobody, I think, is better off by having none. So nobody's at zero. And just to make this fair, yes, I think there's a limit to what talking can do. I'm a big proponent of at some point you need to do it, not talk about it.
Yes.
Why I say, like ideas are great, but until you actually implement one of your ideas, they're just this nebulous idea, which isn't really helping anything.
Well, here's one of the things that, I've worked in open air office plans before, and I've worked in more closed spaces. I think that a good office should have both. And sometimes the work that you need to do in that moment requires that you have a closed space, no discussion whatsoever. And sometimes other work that you do, you are okay with doing it in an open space where a conversation might break out. It might even be beneficial for those emergent discussions. And like Tim says, there are different people with different standards. Some people might, if you have a programmer who comes into work and shuts himself off for the 6 working hours of the day, or 6 optimal hours in the day, and then just comes out and joins you for lunch, that's still better than them shutting themselves up for the entire day at home. And they get what they want, and other people get to see them too and talk to them. But I definitely do not believe that remote work is anywhere close to the benefits of a well-managed office environment. That doesn't mean that you're micromanaging people. It doesn't mean that you're all in an open office plan. But there are ways to build an office environment that is provably more productive than the average remote work setup. Well, such things as a well-managed office? I've seen some well-managed offices, some really well-managed offices. And some of these big AAA studios do have that, right? I think that they're, just because they often have more money, and so they have more space, and they can set up the tech infrastructure for that. So like little work pods where you can go in and be alone and quiet and do whatever you want. And you can still access your computers because of the network infrastructure. Well, so you say you're more productive doing remote than office, but the numbers don't indicate that remote work is as productive as in-office work. But I think, this is an average of both the average remote work and the average in-office experience. And so, of course, you can get a really bad office or a really bad remote work experience. They have trade-offs, and I don't think that there's a replacement for some of the benefits that in-office work provides compared to remote. And I think that remote sometimes provides better benefit than in-office work in some cases.
There's also this idea of qualia, which is an experience is way more important than a description of an experience. The standard qualia example is if you hold and smell and eat an apple, that experience teaches you a lot more about apples than reading about apples or hearing about apples and people talk about apples. Until you've actually eaten an apple and held an apple and smelled an apple, you probably don't even know what an apple is. And that's true for a lot of stuff in game development. You have to do it. You can talk about it to death, but you have to actually do it.
Yep.
And
knowledge does not equate
this is
to
kind
wisdom.
of what I'm trying to get people to understand here is try to spend some time talking to your peers, coworkers, friends, whatever, about game development if you are in game development. It really will help your work. I know a lot of people are like, no, I'm solo, no, I'm introverted, I can't do it. It will help. It isn't everything. It won't solve all your problems, but it's not nothing. And that's all I really wanted to say today. So you guys have a good day.
I think people often use introversion as an excuse to not have to learn to be better communicators. I mean, people use a lot of excuses to not have to do things like anxiety. I have all these things. It's like just do the thing. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. Okay, before I was a professional game designer, I didn't even want to get in front of a camera or a microphone. Neither. I went to my first industry and I could barely talk to other game developers who were excited to talk to somebody young and to teach them about game dev. That's how bad it was on my first industry. You just have to jump feet in. You have to get wet. Okay? That's my advice. Get wet. Go home and get wet. You know what I mean? Use all kinds of excuses to avoid what makes them uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, and uncomfortable sucks, but uncomfortable, it's like avoiding conflict. A lot of people will avoid conflict. But it's like, well, avoiding conflict doesn't mean that the conflict goes away. It just means the conflict is not confronted. You're not avoiding conflict, you're avoiding confrontation about conflict. And so you need to confront the conflicts in order to actually deal with them, find a compromise, or prove the other person wrong, or have them prove that you're wrong. And in game dev, every single day in game dev is a constant battle of problems. Every fucking day. There's no day where there isn't some massive problem going on in game dev. And if you avoid confrontation, you are really, 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 really not cut out for game dev. Really not. Because spending even 1 hour thinking about confronting an issue is 2 hours that probably need to be spent dealing with the issue. Now you're just adding that time, which is money, to the equation here for the budget. It's like, that's a whole different topic, though, isn't it? Whole different topic. And I wish I was working in a company with Tim Cain as the lead. It would be so cool. It would be cool. I would do that too. Tim, don't retire yet, please. Please teach us. No, that was a great video. That was a good one. I think conversation is really important. And like I said, I'm not saying remote work is bad or good, or in-office work is bad or good, but they have trade-offs. And if you're going to work remotely, where I do strongly believe that it's harder to have emergent conversations with physical cues, you need to find a way to replace that, even if it's something where if one person in a conversation asks to have a video call, that everyone needs to jump on the video call then, right? And because I think that the best case scenario for like a remote work like that is to have physical physical video calls. HR. Or what you wish for, you may not like it once in there. I think I would like it if Tim Cain was the lead. Tim and I see eye to eye on like 99% of things. And I think that he has enough experience that he could humble me the way that I need to be humbled, and build up from the ground again with a better foundation. Either way, that was a great video from Tim. Guys, go give Tim a like and subscribe for this video. And if you're watching on YouTube, we will probably have another one up today, or maybe even 2 more up today. So keep an eye out.